Whether you love or hate the Galaxy Z Fold 3, you have to give Samsung credit for doing something innovative in a relatively boring smartphone space. For many years now, new smartphones have become very predictable, resembling almost identical designs from previous years, with a slight improvement to the camera performance and battery lives. And both the Flip 3 and the Fold 3 bring something quite exciting to try and push the smartphone industry forward. I must admit, for many years when it came to my personal phone of choice, it's always been an iPhone. And more recently, it's been the iPhone 13 mini, and going from this to this is quite a significant change. However, it wasn't as significant as I first expected. The Fold 3 has a very narrow design when it's in its standard vertical format, which resembles the exact same width as the iPhone 13 mini, making this a very comfortable one-handed phone for just sending a quick text message. But then to make this phone even more interesting, when you don't want to be using it one-handed, you also have the added advantages of having a tablet. There has been some major improvements to the displays with this latest Samsung phone. We now have a 29% brighter screen, and also the front-facing display now supports 120 Hz. I found a lot of ways to utilize this larger display, and although it has quite a strange resolution with it being almost a square, it fits very well in the hand. One of the most obvious types of apps to benefit from this larger display is gaming. Playing titles such as Call of Duty Mobile is a fantastic experience. But where Android gaming begins to get a little bit more interesting is the integrated support with Xbox gaming apps. If you aren't already aware, Apple have been making it very difficult for both Google Stadia and also Xbox Game Pass for creating integrated apps on iOS. Whereas on Android, there aren't any of these restrictions, so you can install things such as Google Stadia and also Xbox Game Pass directly onto your phone. More productivity-led apps work fantastic as well. Gmail, Google Drive, Google Docs all leverage the extra screen real estate. However, not all apps are perfect, and where I noticed most of the problems in particular was usually with social media apps. Because all of these are designed and optimized for vertical mobile phones, sometimes they just didn't work very well. For example, by default, Instagram looks like this, and you've got basically black bars at each side of the overall display. And although you can change this inside of the settings menu to make it fit the entire screen, certain features such as Reels and IGTV didn't quite scale correctly onto the screen. Additionally, when I was using LinkedIn, I found this app in general just to be terrible. It fits the full width of the display. However, when it comes to scrolling, certain parts of the screen do not respond to that command, and you have to physically grab the actual news feed in order for it to work. A huge discussion point is obviously the crease that's located at the center of the screen. Now, unlike with the Flip 3, I found the crease on the Fold 3 to be much less noticeable. When using the Flip 3, because you scroll up and down the display, your thumb would constantly go over the crease, making you mentally aware of it. Whereas with the Fold 3, because the crease is at the center of the display, when you're scrolling up and down, you never really notice it, unless you obviously turn your phone into the horizontal format, and then it does become more noticeable. But I never really found myself using the phone like this. It was more commonly like this, so I could easily close it. Next, let's talk about the cameras. I didn't think the performance of the cameras was too weak with this phone. You have a range of different lenses covering different focal lengths, and the overall images captured look perfectly fine. The Fold 3 also has two selfie cameras. One that is located on the front-facing display and looks perfectly fine as you would expect from a smartphone, but also a second one that is hidden under the screen to give you a more seamless experience when using the display. The quality on this second camera is absolutely terrible, and I think it is only 4 megapixels. A final note to mention with the cameras is the AR integration, and kind of just like the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max has the LiDAR scanner, you can do some really cool alternate reality stuff with this Samsung phone. Discussing the battery life performance, I was very impressed. Obviously, you're never going to get the performance of an iPhone 13 Pro Max, but when you consider that this phone has 3 120Hz displays, the front-facing one, and then 2 more on the other side, I don't think it does a terrible job. And you should expect that around 8 to 9 p.m. at night that your phone will probably have around 10 to 15% remaining. As cool as this phone is, there is one huge problem, and that is its thickness and weight. And I also found because it is so thick and tall, I would have to take it out of my pocket every time I would sit down so it wasn't uncomfortable. If you want to see my full review of the much cheaper Samsung Flip 3, I highly recommend checking out this video next.